Today we'll be joined by Hannah Phillips, the Civility Commission Manager at the Joe Cox Foundation, and Mark Balam, CEO of imabi, to discuss their important work and the role that culture change has in ensuring that everybody is able to lead their lives free from the fear of violence, including at work and in public life. I have a small personal reason for being interested in this subject. Nearly 20 years ago, I was in a much more public-facing and political role. And because of a stance that I took, I became a target for an extremist political party. This resulted in harassment, abuse, and death threats. My employer at the time had to put in additional security into my place of work. And for only a short time, I had to exercise extra vigilance. The big difference between then and now has been the development of social media and the accessibility of women in public life. And I have watched with horror the increase in misogynistic abuse, intimidation, and violence that women are being exposed to day by day. The personal impact on women is immense. It prevents women being equal voices in politics and in all aspects of leadership. The work of White Ribbon is a part of challenging the harmful cultures that lead to such violence, to encourage and ensure men consider their own behaviour and look to positively influence their peers, and to build a society, the society that surely we all want, of equality and respect. I know as we come together today, we'll hold in our minds all women who are currently living or have lived day to day with such violence. And of course, we hold in our minds the family and friends of Joe Cox. So we are very grateful today to be joined by Hannah Phillips to hear about the work of the Joe Cox Foundation, which makes meaningful change on issues that the late Joe Cox MP was so passionate about. They work in three areas: nurturing stronger communities, championing respect in politics, and advocating for a fairer world. Hannah Phillips is a Civility Commission Manager at the Joe Cox Foundation. She's a policy professional and advocate researcher promoting civility and gender equality in public life. She has worked on local, national and international levels, including at the London Borough of Lambeth Council, the UK House of Commons and the United Nations. And in addition to her work at the Foundation, Hannah is a DPhil PhD candidate and research associate at the University of Oxford. Hannah, we're so delighted you can join us today, and I'll let you speak to us and so we can hear what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction and for inviting me to speak to you today. I think these webinars are such a great idea. And I also have respected White Ribbon for a long time. I worked with the global organization when I was working at UN Women. And yes, so just thank you so much for all your work, and also for sharing your own experience. You know, as you say, this is something that is not a new problem, but there is definitely new aspects of the problem, particularly with social media. Can you see the PowerPoint now?
We can, thank you.
Perfect. So what I'll do today is give a little bit of background about the Joe Cox Foundation generally, with a particular focus on our respectful politics work. As has been said, the Joe Cox Foundation was set up by Joe's friends and family after her murder, and we work on issues that Joe was passionate about. And one of those is respect in politics. So Joe believed passionately about robust debate, but robust debate done respectfully. And one of the big reasons we work on this topic is because Joe believed passionately in getting more women involved in politics and making our politics more representative. And as we know, and as I'll go into a bit more detail, abuse in politics disproportionately impacts women and seems to be having effect on women not wanting to run, which is detrimental to our representative democracy. So in 2023, the foundation launched the Joe Cox Civility Commission Call for Evidence, and we worked with a range of stakeholders throughout the UK to understand this problem of violence, abuse, intimidation on elected representatives on national and local levels across all the nations and regions of the United Kingdom. And we don't work on this issue so much because of the way that Jo died, but because of the way that she lived. As I said, it's really her driving values about respect in politics and about how robust debate can bring us together, and that we have far more in common than that which divides us, which is Jo's message that drives all of our work. So I'll talk a little bit about this problem of abuse in politics. It's had a lot more visibility, particularly with the general election. But as you know, as I've said, this problem is not necessarily a new one, but does seem to have become worse in recent years. And one aspect that's really come through the research and kind of engagement we've done at the foundation, but also in academic research, is that this problem has become normalized. Like many people we spoke to, and both politicians, staff, and also their families, talked about that this problem was just expected. You know, staff, part of their job now is just going through social media and reporting the death threats. It's just a normal part of politics, and we don't believe that it should be normalized. We want to change the culture. And the quote that I've shared here is a letter from Heidi Allen MP when she stood down, and she stood down partly because of abuse, which she has kind of talked about publicly. And in this letter, she said, nobody in any job should have to put up with threats, aggressive emails, being shouted at in the street, sworn at on social media, nor have to install panic alarms at home. And I think something that's important to note here is that, you know, their politicians are elected, they're public servants, but they're also, you know, workers, they're doing a job. And, you know, no one in any role should have to kind of put up with kind of regular normalization of violence and abuse. So that's kind of the first part of the problem, is that it's become normalized and we want to kind of stop it becoming normalized. Another aspect of the problem that's important to emphasize is that this comes in a range of forms. So obviously, we've had two MPs, Jo Cox and Sir David Amess, murdered. So that's the kind of most extreme form of violence. But there's many more politicians receive regular in-person harassment as well as online threats. Abuse is often heightened in response to certain issues. For example, foreign policy at the national level, and on the local level, like planning decisions, they kind of seem to elicit a lot of abuse depending on the issue. And this, in a kind of particularly shocking submission that I've quoted here, a local councillor told us that they had a swastika painted on the wall, traitor painted on the wall, campaign posters defaced and destroyed, and a tire slashed and threatened with being egged on the street. So this kind of shows a range of different forms of violence and abuse. And again, this doesn't just impact the politician themselves, but also their staff and their family. Jess Phillips, MP, who I know you've had on before, we're not actually related, even though we have the same last name, in her acceptance speech in July for the recent general election, she talked about the impact on her supporters, that, you know, this was something that didn't just impact her, but she was really concerned about how it was impacting the people who were working for her, volunteering for her. And I think that's another kind of important point to make. And of particular relevance to White Ribbon is that abuse in politics has a disproportionate impact on some groups. It can certainly affect everyone of any identities, but research shows that it has a particular impact on women and those with protected characteristics, including those with intersecting identities. The research I've shared here is from the Local Government Association, and that is showing that 60% of councillors surveyed didn't want to stand because of abuse in politics. And this other piece of research from the Scottish Parliament said that 70% of members feared for their safety, and that rose to almost 90% for female MSPs. And there's been a lot of other research that shows this disproportionate impact. Amnesty International did a piece of research on online abuse in the 2017 general election, which showed that at the time, the 20 ethnic minority women MPs received almost half of all the abusive tweets. And in that research as well, it showed that Diane Abbott by herself received the most abuse out of all the kind of women and candidates that they looked at. So really, this is a really important issue in terms of that women inequalities aspect. And the final thing I want to emphasize about the problem is that this has an impact on democracy. So obviously it has a really important impact on those who are experiencing it, those around them, but it seems to be having an impact on kind of the pipeline of representation. So Girl Guiding UK did a piece of research looking at young women's aspirations for the future, and a lot more than a third of them were being put off by certain jobs, including and especially politics, because of the abuse that high profile women get online. And of course, if that continues, if we don't have women, other people from a range of backgrounds entering politics, it just will really impact the representative nature and kind of the quality of our democracy and good decisions and so on. So it's a really important issue. And we have found that there has been a lot of action in recent years. For example, in 2017, the Committee on Standards in Public Life launched a report, and some of those recommendations have been implemented. There's been increased security in Parliament, election guidance for MPs. There's a lot of different groups that are working on this issue, but when we were creating our call to action, we found that there was a kind of a lack of coordination. So part of our role has been to kind of bring people together and try and kind of fill those gaps. And when we, as I said, as we were developing the recommendations and as we've kind of all gone forward with our advocacy, we've been really, really collaborative. And that's one of the reasons I'm really pleased to speak to you today. Kind of only by working together, we'll be able to address this issue. And we launched the call to action in January this year, with 28 recommendations. And what we were really pleased about is that we had a range of kind of cross-party support, because this is an issue that affects all parties and kind of needs all parties and people from kind of different kind of industries, different roles to kind of take action. And kind of since the launch of the report in January, we've kind of continued the advocacy. And we had a lot of recommendations. We cut them down to 20. I won't go through them all, but excuse me. We split them into themes, including coordination behaviour, political literacy, social media, police and security, parliaments, and that's including Westminster and the devolved administrations, local governments, elections, and political parties. And some of the key recommendations include that we think there should be, as I said, this coordination unit, and that government should hold that to collect data and coordinate the different stakeholders who are responsible for dealing with these issues. One thing that we get asked a lot of the time, aren't elected representatives kind of responsible for the tone? And absolutely, we believe that all elected representatives should model good behaviour, and political parties also have a role in implementing their codes of conduct and so on. One of the really important aspects that has come out in kind of nearly all our stakeholder engagement is that there is a problem with a lack of understanding about what politicians do, what MPs versus councillors do, what parish councillors do, and how political decisions, how laws are passed. And so a really kind of one of our key recommendations that there should be kind of more political and kind of media, information literacy and mandatory part of the school curriculum, and kind of outside of school there should kind of be more awareness campaigns for the general public aimed at increasing this understanding of what exactly elected representatives do. Excuse me. And we've made key progress in some of the recommendations, and some of that kind of on a range of different issues. And one of those is that the Home Office confirmed that they'll be adopting our recommendation that is also being emphasised by the Local Government Association, that there should be excuse me, I'm recovering from a chest infection. So there will now be dedicated local police resources, not just for national politicians, but also for local elected representatives. Apologies, I should say local elected representatives, and which would be a huge help to politicians throughout all those levels of government. And related to the police, there's also been updated information and training to clarify the roles and responsibilities. And the police told us that that was kind of indirect response to our recommendations, which is really, really positive. Parliament is also making important steps to improve the support for MP staff and families. And also this year's local and general elections saw the implementation of recommendation that any costs associated with candidate safety are exempt from election spending limits. And going forward, we want to work in collaboration to be part of this broader culture change. Our vision is a political culture where diversity is celebrated, excuse me, and robust debate brings us closer together. And just to kind of end with this really lovely email that we received, is that someone said, keep up your work. I felt I was alone facing this, but now I know I'm not. And it's really kind of by raising awareness and working together, we can really address this issue. So again, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah. I was very taken with remembering that people are in workplaces, and we should be protecting people with that. And just something that we're so aware of with White Ribbon, and where we're trying to really challenge, is what's normalised and seen as being acceptable, or something you just have to put up with, and how we need to really look to challenge the culture that allows that to happen. So I'm glad you've got some water there. That's good. I'm going to move us on to Mark Ballam from imabi, and to introduce Mark to you. Mark's a safeguarding expert with more than 30 years of experience in this area, and he's the chief executive and founder of imabi. Imabi integrates safeguarding, personal safety and well-being into one comprehensive service. Mark's a White Ribbon ambassador and actively works to tackle violence against women and girls and domestic abuse through imabi Guardian. So I'll let Mark introduce this to you all. We're very grateful to be working in partnership over certainly a couple of years now with imabi.
Thank you, Anthea, for the introduction, and good morning, everybody. My name is Mark Ballam. I am the founder and CEO of imabi. imabi is a social impact company with a vision to create a safer, kinder and healthier world for millions of people every day and everywhere. And then following on from what you just been communicated by Anthea and Hannah, I just wanted to share with you how we are using responsible and considered technology to create genuine, sustainable and progressive societal change, which I'm very proud to say that we're already delivering in schools, colleges, universities, businesses, across the transport sector, policing and communities in there. It's extremely important that everyone is able to live their lives, free from fear of violence, harassment and abuse. So I'd like to just spend the next 10 minutes explaining what motivated me to create imabi in the first place, what imabi is already delivering, and how we are working together with others to make change. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, as Anthea said, I have over 30 years of safeguarding and national security experience. However, over time, I started to become increasingly frustrated that organisations that I'd worked with for many years wasn't doing enough to create the change. And I felt more could be done to create real sustainable change. I was further motivated and inspired by my two amazing young daughters, Imogen and Abigail, hence the name imabi, who I saw were growing up in an ever challenging, stressful and harmful world. As a father, I wanted to ensure my girls and millions of people around the world are safe, healthy and mentally well. So I decided to do something about it myself. imabi is about tackling all forms of harmful behaviour, personal safety, security threats, well-being and personal mental health issues. We've adopted the word peace, and to me it's all around prevention. We must stop simply reacting, but instead put efforts into preventing things happening in the first place. It's about education. It's important we move away from this normalised society and provide education on what's right and wrong. Action. We must stop simply talking about the issue, but instead take action. And change. It will be essential that these actions lead to real positive and sustainable change. And empowerment. Most importantly, we must ensure everyone is empowered to speak out, report and seek support when needed. It's about bringing people and organisations together to create real positive social change. Next slide, please. Thank you. So over the past 4 years, we have created a first of a kind national ecosystem and tailored solution for everyone, every day, everywhere. Our central, responsible and considered technology platform allows us to constantly innovate and create tailored and customized user-facing apps for multiple markets, including education, businesses and communities. Our platform and ecosystem currently offers 5 user and organisational facing apps. Our Inspire app is aimed at the education market to provide safeguarding and wellbeing support to students and teachers in schools, colleges and universities. Railway Guardian has been built on our enterprise solution and has been tailored for British Transport Police. It's helping to tackle violence against women and girls and promoting active bystanders across the rail network. We link into the 61016 CSA Assaulted Tech Service and have become the UK's first and only integrated crime reporting app. Our partnership with Crime Stoppers also allows users to anonymously report crimes. Guardian is our free consumer app that has been tailored to complement Railway Guardian and tackle violence against women and girls when you're not on the rail network. Our community app is our national free consumer app that is helping to create safer and healthier communities through local national initiatives by partnering with other organisations. Pro is aimed at the workplace and is tackling workplace discrimination, harassment, harmful behaviours, security threats, mental health, and is helping businesses to reinforce laws, policies and training, such as the new Workers Protection Act, and is improving brand reputation and helping to attract and retain talent. We also have imabi Community CRC, which is our not-for-profit company, and is set up to support safeguarding in the education sector and create safer communities. Next slide, please. Okay. So what does it look like? What does it look like? Our trusted all-in-one place solution allows us to tailor and conveniently present a number of services and features to organisations and individuals through a number of user-facing apps. And our back-end portal has a comprehensive data analysis reporting. The one shown here is Railway Guardian that we created and licensed for the British Transport Police. To support our prevention ethos, it's essential we educate and empower our users and make it easily accessible to get the information and support when they need in a convenient manner. Our guides education provides essential knowledge to ensure we all make safer decisions and know right from wrong. As Anthea said, unfortunately, we live in this sort of normalised society where unacceptable behaviours are just accepted. Our support links you to support services so you can get the help when you need it. Report makes it easier to report harmful behaviours, environmental and mental health issues. Location provides a suite of comprehensive geolocation tools to share your journey with your friends and loved ones and notify people when you've arrived somewhere safely. We also have a Rescue Me feature that allows you to reach out to people when you need support. And we can also navigate you to safe spaces and places that have been appropriately trained. We've also tied in with the British Heart Foundation and plotted the national defibrillators as well. Messages provides real-time messaging, so you receive important information when you need it. Our notice board links you to other essential information, our partner organisation, and promotes national and local campaigns, strengthening the voice of others that we work with. The Your Voice section is a powerful customer and public engagement area that provides you with the ability to share your concerns and experiences, complete surveys, and quickly respond to topical snapshots. All this is managed by a central administration portal that organisations can control. This allows endless content management and also trend analysis reporting, so you know what's happening in your organisation and community, so we can start to create that real societal change. Next slide, please. Thank you. The screenshots here show how we communicate the locations and navigate people to safe places and safe havens. It's essential that people aren't navigated to places that are closed when they need their help in there. So we look up opening times and display them to users in real time. Where available, we can also provide what services are available at each of those locations in there. Once selected, the user will be navigated to that location safely. And as mentioned previously, our comprehensive suite of geolocation tools is constantly growing, and we're working with more and more partners to make sure that we provide the information on these maps and the tools. Next, please. Data is extremely important, so you know what's happening across your communities or within your organisation. So this is an example of what we captured with British Transport Police for the use of our Railway Guardian, and it just means that you can see how people are interacting, what type of things that they're reporting, where your trends are, where your hotspots. And we can work with organisations and communities and present these maps in various different ways. A popular map that we provide is a heat map, so you can start to see where different behaviours are happening in different parts of the countries or within your local community. Next, please. We are so proud of our partners and supporters. Our partnerships allow us to promote and signpost our users to their services and amplifies their campaigns and information. By working together, it allows us to educate and reinforce important messages. We recently worked with White Ribbon on the Euros 24 campaign for keeping women safe throughout the Euros. Due to violence and abuse against women increasing significantly when England play football. And it was good to get the press coverage that we did and a greater awareness of such an important subject. Partnerships are so important to us, because we believe that it's not just about what imabi has produced from a technical point of view, it's about working with like-minded organisations to create that change that's needed. Next slide, please. Specifically around tackling violence against women and girls, we've got a dedicated app called imabi Guardian in there. Guardian has all the features and services of our other apps. However, we are working with subject matter experts and charities to help fight this problem and by educating and empowering society to change. As a man, a father, and a White Ribbon ambassador, it's important we educate men and empower women to speak out and help us create a world that women can live in their lives in without fear from men. We are constantly reaching out to like-minded organisations and individuals to invite them to be part of our journey and help us grow the content and support services we offer. Next slide, please. I mentioned earlier imabi Community, which is our not-for-profit CRC. Our vision is to safeguard over 1 million children by the end of 2025. imabi has already committed over £100,000 to ensure imabi Inspires help safeguard over 30,000 children. imabi has already saved the lives of a number of children and recently identified a paedophile teacher that's been working across the education sector. And we're now happy to say that they're being convicted. But we want to safeguard more children and young adults and create safer communities. We have therefore introduced imabi Match to help individuals, organisations and public bodies help us to make a difference to millions of people every day. It's essential we educate the next generation. Next slide, please. So in summary, imabi is passionate and truly committed to creating real and sustainable positive societal change. We believe technology can help in educating boys and men about preventing gender-based violence, harassment and abuse. We need to make it easy and convenient to access help and support when needed. However, more importantly, we need to ensure women can live their lives freely without compromise or fear. We know tackling women's safety is a big task. However, if we work together, we can start to make positive steps forward. Next slide, please. So on the screen here, please feel free to scan the QR code or visit our website if you need information, or reach out to me on those addresses in there. Feel free to download imabi Guardian, imabi Community or Railway Guardian so you can explore for yourself what we're doing to try and tackle these societal problems and create a difference in there. And if you're interested or involved in schools or for your businesses, we'd love to talk to you about how Inspire and Pro can make a difference. But thank you for your time today, and it's been great being part of this webinar. Thank you, Anthea.
Thank you so much, Mark. And we first came into contact with imabi, I think, as the Railway Guardian Act was being developed. And one of the things that we particularly respected in how that came about was that it encourages other people to report, so the onus isn't placed on women and other people who are experiencing harassment on the rail network themselves. So the and something that's so vital in White Ribbon's work is about encouraging people to be active bystanders and appropriately. I think one of the things that so often happens when we're talking about this area, that the burden of responsibility is placed on women to keep themselves safe. So it's a very different attitude, I think, and approach that imabi takes in terms of reporting, safe reporting, and ensuring that the educational aspect of it, to bring everybody on board, is really vital, and we're very respectful of that. And one of the reasons we're so glad to partner with you, Mark. So we've got just a short time for some questions, and I think the first one that leads on from that is about what ordinary people, members of the public, can do to ensure that women in public life are able to live their lives free from the fear of violence. So how can everybody get involved in really making a difference? Hannah, shall I come to you with that question first, please?
Sure. Yeah, obviously it's an excellent question. So I think first of all is, don't, like, when you are kind of disagreeing with politicians, to do that respectfully, and that will be taken more, that'll be more impactful than being kind of disrespectful, abusive. So obviously that's the first thing. I think also as you said, being an active bystander and calling out when you see others abused. So online, for example, if there's, you see a pile on like female elected representatives, kind of calling it out. And even in kind of everyday conversation, obviously this is something that White Ribbon does more generally, but if someone is kind of being really kind of abusive in their language of criticizing a woman in public, to kind of call that out as well. So I think that's really important. And of course, I think one thing that you can do is kind of go onto the Joe Cox Foundation website and look up our civility and commission recommendations and support our work, and also just kind of generally raise awareness that this is a problem as well. So all the principles of that kind of White Ribbon already implements. And something I would say, kind of building on Mark's presentation, I think something that's really important is that technology clearly can be a force for good. I think sometimes in discussions it's like, oh well, politicians get abused online and that's terrible, but actually politicians themselves really value the engagement that being on social media allows, kind of being closer with their communities, and that people can email them really easily their concerns, and that they get, and one thing Jess Phillips often says is she gets way more fan mail than she does hate mail. So technology can be a force for good, so kind of using technology particularly the force for good as well. So those are kind of a few points I would make.
Thank you. And I realised I fell into the trap of talking about ordinary people who are not politicians, and we do really need to remember, don't we, that politicians are not this different sort of sect. They are actually right. Ordinary people and experience anything in the way that we all do, and this is all our responsibility, isn't it? But I think making sure that those of us who are not in those positions have realize that we actually have some power to change things. One of the things I talk about a lot of White Ribbon is about displacing. So if we use social media and those other avenues as places for good, where there is healthy debate, that displaces and pushes out and shows an alternative. So we can all show responsibility there. Do you want to add to this, Mark? Because your work with imabi is very much about getting all of us to be participants in making this change, isn't it?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we're really sort of passionate about is making sure that people get the right information, factual information that people can act upon, actionable information. So that's why it's important to work with like-minded organisations that are subject matter experts on there, so we can start to sort of educate society and communities in there with the right information. There's so much harmful content out there, and people, we do live in this normalised society there, where people think that it's acceptable to act in a certain way, and we know that we have cultural changes as well, with a very diverse nation that we've got. So we want to make sure that we've got some consistent messages that's going out there that we can educate the public to be active bystanders in there. And we know what's right and wrong, and we don't just accept unacceptable behaviours and shun them off and normalise. How do we make people a lot more knowledgeable and educated? And how do we give them the tools to easily and conveniently either intervene as an active bystander or call things out? And that's the only way we're going to change. We certainly can't be silent on this.
We've had a question come through. I think people have been very pleased that Hannah, you spoke about local government so much and the experiences of people in local government. So the question has come through about for both of you about working directly with any county councils specifically. They've asked, and any examples of how a council might engage with you in this work. Do you want to speak a little bit more about that, Hannah? Because obviously you have been, you indicated about your local government engagement.
Yes, absolutely. So a few ways that we work directly with councillors is during our call for evidence. We had a lot of engagement from individual councillors, and we've also worked with various local government associations. So the main local government association for England and for England, but also the Welsh Local Government Association and the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, COSLA, and the Northern Ireland Local Government Association as well. And the national, there's a lot of associations, National Association of Local Councillors in ELK. And I think what's really been really helpful is that all of those organisations have prioritised this issue of kind of addressing abuse and intimidation. So I guess my first suggestion would be to get involved with the relevant association, and the local government association in particular have a debate not hate resource, and they have lots of different resources that councils can implement. For example, model motion, and for councillors, for like councils of kind of different levels to implement, and also what councils can do. One of the challenges for elected representatives, this is national as well, but because they're not staff, they don't have the same rights, and that is the rights is kind of employed staff, so it can be a little challenging to kind of get support on a council level, and that's something that we've been working with the various associations to address. In terms of this particular question, get involved with the local association, and also kind of use those resources to I guess advocate within the council about what can be done to support elected representatives when they kind of face abuse in terms of signposting, and also prevent abuse happening in the first place. And I think we're really pleased that police support will be available for local councillors. That's still being kind of rolled out exactly what that will look at, but I think a lot of that will be around obviously assisting councillors in reporting when abuse has happened, but also kind of more preventative safety and security support. So I think that'll be something that will hopefully be really helpful kind of going forward. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really, I think the emphasis there on partnership working with different agencies is one that we that's the first time we've really noted that, isn't it, and how important that is. Mark, do you want to add to that briefly?
Yeah, I'd just say this is where technology can play its part, really, because obviously we're trying to create a national voice and make sure that we communicate to the masses, but being able to work at a very local level, and supporting the differences that happen within different communities and regions in there means that the technology can be tweaked to make sure that it's providing the right messages to the right people, and therefore it lands. So if we're supporting sort of local constituents in there, and any initiatives that's going on between those areas, or reporting capabilities, we can make sure that people, when they're physically in those areas, can access the information that's specific to that area. If you're in London and you don't necessarily want to know information that's happening in Birmingham or Manchester, but if we can provide specific information that's relevant to the organisations and the support that you can get within your own community in there, then that obviously makes things a lot more accessible, and that's what we're looking to do.
Thank you so much. Coming to our close now, so just want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you especially to Hannah and Mark. We're in the run-up now to White Ribbon Day on the 25th of November, and our theme this year is It Starts With Men, It Starts With Me, and encouraging men in particular, as is our work at White Ribbon, to really think about their own behaviour and how they can influence that of their colleagues and family and friends to make a difference. We all have a part to play in ensuring that women in public life are able to live and do their work and campaign free from violence and from the fear of violence. We can really make a difference. Thousands of people join us every year in getting our message out around White Ribbon Day, and together, by supporting that, by showing what the message of the White Ribbon means at this time, we can really show that so many of us want to build a society of tolerance and respect and equality that we need to make sure that we can really live in this world where everybody is able to appropriately have their voice. So thank you so much for joining us, and please look out for future webinars and also all the work that we're doing towards the 25th of November. Have a good rest of the day, everyone.